So we're going to talk today. I'm going to show you today how easy it is to apply napkins to paper, but we're going to take it a step up. We're going to kick it up a bit, kick it up a notch, because I think that people don't always realize all the things that you can do with paper. And I'm going to be using just plain cardstock today. Cardstock, I would tell you, if you're using cardstock, to use anything from like 65 pound is just a plain white cardstock. You can also have colored cardstocks. If you're a card maker or a scrapbooker, you know what I'm talking about. You can use I think anywhere from, I'd say, from 60 to 100 pound, something like that works great. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about napkin art on paper today. I'm going to show you first just the most basic way to create decorative paper from a napkin. Okay, the most basic way. And then we're going to kick it up a notch. Okay, and I'm going to show you that indeed you can actually crackle paper. And I don't know that everybody knows there's so many things you can do with paper, okay, with just regular cardstock. And as I mentioned before, there's so many different ways that we can use this. So I'm going to start. And recently, not long ago in the Napkin Club, okay, recently, not long ago in the Napkin Club, we did something called Paper Crafting Palooza. And oh my gosh, it was so much fun. We had a blast. It was awesome. And we just barely scratched the surface, but we were working on like Christmas cards and tags and all the things. And one of the things that I shared was card fronts, how it's such a great thing to just cut the size that you want for a card front, not the whole card, just the front part, and use that for your scraps, right? Like your leftover scrap paper, your leftover scrap napkins, all of those things. And then you could easily just turn those into card fronts. So easy. Then that card front could go on a card. It could wind up on a scrapbook page. It could get the corners nipped and turned into a tag, right? It could get put onto a canvas. I mean, like, there's just so many different things that you could do. Okay, so many different things that you could do. Let's see. Tanya is saying something to Ashley, something about a link. So Cheryl is posting links. So Ashley, make sure you have the right link as you're reposting here. Ashley's also a team member. I have a few team members on here today watching to help share what's going on. So I want to go ahead and just start with something just really simple and basic, okay? Simple and basic. So what I like to use, you guys, on paper is just Mod Podge Matte, okay? Mod Podge Matte. This is a new bottle, so I don't want to spill it out. Mod Podge Matte, it is the yellow label, okay? It's the yellow label, and it's great. So I just have a piece of cardstock here. This is, I think, like maybe 6.5 by 6.5 or something. And I'm going to put some of this Mod Podge Matte right onto this piece of paper. I'm working on top of a piece of parchment paper, but as long as you're on, craft mat or something. And so we're just going to simply coat this up, okay? And I'm going to give you a sneak peek of something fun here. I'm going to show you a napkin that's going to be in the January bundle. Look at this pretty napkin. It is so pretty. Look at this beautiful rose. It's got these like kind of little postage stamp kind of things on it. It's so pretty. So I'm going to use this napkin. It'll be in the January bundle. And I'm going to show you what I can do with this. So when you open up a napkin, you're actually going to get 4 images, right? So I cut a square off. And now I'm going to remove the plies of the napkin, okay? I'm going to do this with, I call this the lick and stick method, okay? Just tap my fingers together. And then I'm going to come and I'm going to squeeze. And do you see how it just pulls the plies apart? Okay, actually, I think I got both plies off here. Let me show you, because this napkin has 3 plies. There we go. So there's 1, 2, and 3. We want this one. We want the top tissue, the top ply, that has the beautiful napkin art on it. Okay. Now I'm just going to lay this down onto this piece of paper. And I like to, in the beginning, when you're first working with napkin art, okay, I want you to use a piece of paper that's larger than your napkin if you're going to do the whole square. Okay. Just easier. You don't have to try to line everything up, all of those things. And I'm going to use a piece of plastic wrap. Now, you probably have plastic wrap in your kitchen. It could be saran wrap, any kind of plastic wrap. What I love to use, because I share all, I don't keep any secrets. I share all here. I use deli bakery sheets. I get them on Amazon. They're in my Amazon storefront. Um, and they're just awesome because they don't stick to each other, it doesn't stick to itself. And I'm going to use this plastic sheet and I'm going to lay it down right on top of my napkin and I'm going to start smoothing. Okay, this is Napkin Art 101, but we're going to step it up today too. Okay, so I'm putting it on this piece of cardstock that's larger than what I really need it to be. That way I don't have to worry about trying to line everything up. Just a little bit larger. And you'll see I did not line up this napkin. It just takes the stress off of trying to get everything lined up. Okay. Trying to get everything lined up. So this is a really good tip. And it's just going to take a little bit of stress away from you. Life is stressful enough. Our crafting shouldn't be. So, and now I'm going to smooth it. Now this method using the plastic wrap, okay, the plastic sheet, is best for smooth surfaces. Okay, this is best for smooth surfaces. And we're going to get much less wrinkles. And if you're using a textured paper, the texture will kind of show through it, but it's not so much texture generally on paper that it's really gonna, I would still consider it to be smooth. Okay, so we're going to peel this back off. And I want you to see first that my napkin is not lined up. Look, see, I've got more paper showing over here. Look how close it comes down over here, right? So my napkin art is actually kind of crooked on here, but I don't care because I'm going to trim away that excess. All right. I may not even use this entire napkin. I may decide if let's say maybe I'm a Bible journaler and I just want to create a beautiful tag that I can put into my Bible and write a prayer on the back of it, right? It could be something like that. It could be treated like a bookmark. I could cut this down to be the front of a card, right? I could cut this down and nip the corners and it could be a tag. Again, there's just so many things that I could do. Now I'm going to take my heat gun just for time's sake and I'm going to dry this. I want to make sure it's nice and dry. And I want to tell you that anytime you get paper wet, can y'all hear me over the dryer? Let me know. Here, this won't take but just a second. Anytime that you get any kind of paper wet, it's going to want to curl. Whether let's say you do art journaling, right? You love to do mixed media and work in art journals or something like that. When you get paper wet, it's naturally going to curl. It just is. Even cardstock like this, mine didn't wet too much, which is kind of nice, or warp too much, but normally they're going to curl. Now, as they dry, they will flatten back out. Okay, so please don't worry about that. And sometimes I'll even turn them over and dry the back, and that helps them flatten back out. Okay, if you're into Bible journaling and you get a Bible page wet, it's also going to crinkle and curl. And you're going to learn more about that this week in some of those sessions. So just don't let that panic you. Okay, don't let that panic you. But this is such a beautiful napkin. And again, I'm kicking it off today with napkins because you guys, there's just so many things that we could do with them. So now basically what I've done here is I'm making decorative paper. Think about it that way. I'm making a decorative paper. Now we have to remember that this is just a tissue. This is just a tissue. And I like to protect that tissue. And the way I protect it, you guys, is I just take my Mod Podge mat and I'm going to put just a quick little coating on top of it. Now, I don't always do this, okay? So I want it to be known, I don't always do this for paper crafting, okay? I just don't. I don't always feel like a paper crafted item really needs to be sealed. If this is going to go inside of something, if it's going to go, let's say it's going to go in a scrapbook page. Well, you're going to have your page protector to protect that, right? But here's the thing. If I plan to do any kind of pen work, add any extra kind of stuff on top of it, then it'll be a good idea to seal it. So for today's purposes, okay, I'm not going to seal this beautiful rose, okay, but I can. All right. I just want you to know you can. You don't always have to, but sometimes you do. If you're going to do pen work, if you're going to do anything artsy or crafty on top of the napkin, okay, you have to seal the napkin. And here's why. I want to make sure everybody understands this, okay? Because a napkin's purpose in life is to absorb, okay? It's to absorb. So if I don't seal this napkin, it's going to absorb anything I put on top of it. If I go to write, maybe I want to write a pretty little sentiment. Maybe I want to stamp a sentiment. Maybe I want to do some pen work around this rose. If I do that directly to the napkin and it hasn't been sealed, it's going to absorb the ink. It's going to look fuzzy. The ink is going to get fuzzy and all of those things, okay? So if you think you're going to do something on top of your paper craft, okay? If you think you're going to do something on top of it, then we should seal it. I'm kind of thinking maybe we should just go ahead and seal it. Let's go ahead and seal it real quick, just that way you can see. But I'm going to be real honest. I don't always do that on my paper crafted items. But for today's purposes, I will. Okay, because I don't know how I'm going to use this piece. You may see me use this piece this week in different ways. So if I'm not sure how I'm going to use it, then I'm going to go ahead and seal it, right? It's never going to hurt to seal it. And by sealing it, I'm just putting on a thin coat, okay, of Mod Podge over the top. That's it. That's it. It's super easy. A thin coat right over the top. Okay. Super, super easy. All right. So let's move this one out of the way. We're going to let this one dry and then we're going to come back to it. Okay. We're going to let it dry. We're going to come back to it. Yes, Karen, I like to use Mod Podge matte for any paper crafting with napkin art. Okay. It works great. It kind of has a great satin feel to it. Kind of a satiny matte feel to it. It's not like a high gloss or anything. Here's the problem I have with like regular Mod Podge. Okay. Always get the yellow for paper crafting. Okay. The yellow label matte. The red label, which is glossy. A lot of people have it. But the red label, the thing about the red label that is just like, is it always feels sticky to me. Always. Like it could be 2 weeks later and I feel of it and it feels sticky or tacky. I mean, it could be 6 months later. I feel of it. Or if I Mod Podge with glossy on a canvas or something, I sit it on my mantle and I go to pick it up. It kind of sticks, when I pick it up. So I'm not a fan of the glossy. I am a big fan of the matte. Okay. Mod Podge matte. Okay. So I'm going to share a little tip with you that I shared when we did our paper crafting palooza in the Napkin Club. You can add Mod Podge to your cardstock ahead of time. Okay. And all of these right here are card fronts. These are all card fronts. So all of them, and I don't know if you can tell, but they all have had a coat of Mod Podge put on them. Every single one of them. So if you are an avid card maker or you want to really make use of your scraps of napkins or whatever it is that you love to do, you can actually, this is what I like to do with my scraps, is I make up a bunch of card fronts. This is the front that's going to go on a card. Here's a colored piece of cardstock, already folded, ready to go. And oops, wrong size. It's this one. I have several different size cards that are my favorites, but look, now once I have my card fronts made, then I can put them right on top of the card. I'm ready to go, right? Or I can nip off the corners and make it a tag. Now, the reason I'm showing you this, okay, the reason I'm showing you this is because I can also do something called the iron-on method, all right? Who wants to learn about the iron-on method? Another really super easy method. So if you know that you're going to want, I keep a lot of these just made up. I just literally lay them out onto, you know, my craft mat or my, this is parchment paper, and I literally just coat them. One coat, make sure you get everywhere. You don't want to have any little missing gaps or anything on one side, and I let them dry. Okay. So when they're dry, all right, when they're dry, they have to be dry. You can just stack them up. I have a little bin. That I just keep them all in. My favorite card fronts. And again, sometimes these become tags. Sometimes these might go on a layout. Sometimes these might go on my Bible. I just use them for different things. Okay. I use them for different things. And for my fabric people out there, you can do the same thing with like a piece of muslin fabric. If you have fabric cut to certain sizes and you just want to start kind of creating your own decorative fabric, we can do the same thing. And we'll talk about that later in one of our upcoming sessions. Okay. So I like to have these just at the ready. They're at the ready. So I'm going to show you the iron-on method. Okay. Now keep in mind, there is a coat of Mod Podge on here and it is already dry. Okay, there's a coat of Mod Podge on here and it's already dry. And I just realized I forgot to turn on my iron. So let me turn that on real quick. And then let's choose a napkin. I'm going to choose something. Again, we're talking about kind of decorative paper. Let's choose this one. This one's so pretty. This was in last month's napkin bundle. It's this really pretty, these pretty mittens. Oh, I just think it's gorgeous. The little snowflakes everywhere. So let's say I want to send someone maybe a thank you card from a Christmas gift, right? Maybe I got a Christmas gift and I want to send a beautiful thank you card. Okay. And I want to put this on it. So what I can do is I'm not going to worry about the size, but do you see how I can kind of see through it? I want to make sure this is the front, right? So I'm going to kind of lay this where it needs to be. I have to separate the napkin again. This time I'm going to show you a different way to separate your napkin. Okay. So here's my Mod Podge. I see I have a little drip right here. I'm just going to dip into that drip. So the other way that you can separate your napkin is to put a little tiny bit. If your spit isn't sticky as mine, if you don't want to do the lick and stick method, you can do this. Just a little dot, little dab of Mod Podge, and just keep tapping your fingers together until it feels sticky but not gluey, if that makes sense. So that needs to feel kind of sticky. And then do you see what will happen? It will just kind of help you take those plies off. Let's see if I'm still sticky enough. Yeah, there it goes. Whoop. So you can use the lick and stick method or just a tiny little bit of Mod Podge. Okay, really super easy. All right, let's see if my iron, if I think it's hot enough. So this is the iron that I use. It's a little Oliso mini iron. It's called a mini. I love it. It's great. I have small hands, so it's great for my hands. I just use it in my craft room. And as a craft iron, I never put water in it. Okay, so it needs to be a dry iron, no water, no steam when we're doing this method. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and lay this down right here, exactly where I want it to be. Go up a little bit. I want to make sure I kind of capture as much of the image as I possibly can. Okay, and this is the layer. I have the cardstock that has the dried Mod Podge on top. I have my top tissue with my napkin art. I'm going to put another piece of parchment paper on top. parchment paper, not wax paper. There's a big difference, okay? So make sure you're using parchment paper. I'm going to bring my iron over. It's set on its highest, hottest setting, no water. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to press. Now, what's happening is the iron is activating the Mod Podge, okay? So I could have these pieces of cardstock already dry with Mod Podge, ready to go in a stack for a month. I mean, for however long, it doesn't matter. And then I can come in and the heat reactivates the Mod Podge. And I usually don't have to even iron it this much. Oh yeah, that's probably plenty. But I just turned on my iron, so I want to make sure I got it good. Okay, we take off the parchment paper. We're going to lift up our cardstock. Sorry, I have some Mod Podge on this cardstock. I mean, on this parchment paper. Okay, and here we go. It is stuck. We have now made a decorative piece of paper, and I usually like to cut this off from the back. So let's cut this off from the back. Right. And it's a great thing to do with your napkin scraps when you get down to where you just have that one square left or you just have bits and pieces left. But I now have made a beautiful piece of decorative paper. Isn't it awesome? So I can have these all ready to go. Ready to go. And if you know how many of your card makers, just let me know out there in the comments, how many of your card makers or wannabe card makers? Okay. All right. So what's cool about this is I can have these cut to the size I need them to be. I created a card size guide, a card and a mat size guide for everyone in my Napkin Club. And I'm going to give it to you guys watching the Create and Connect series. So make sure you go over and get your email, get registered, because we're going to send this out to you. Okay. I'm so excited about it. So I have a little card size guide so that you'll know, okay, my paper needs to be this size to fit this card, right? So let's just see what this is going to look like. Then, now that it's a pretty decorative piece of paper, darn, I keep using the wrong size. It's this one. Then look, I can just put it right onto the front of this pretty aqua cardstock. Look how beautiful that is, right? I can just put it on there with a tape runner or craft glue, whatever I want to do. It is so easy. It is so easy. Maybe I want this to be a tag. I can nip off the corners. I can punch a hole where the center of this bow is. I could put my own ribbon in there, right? And I have a cute tag that I could put on a winter layout or that I want to put on a gift bag. Maybe somebody has a winter birthday in the family. I can put it on a gift bag, right? I can put my little message on the back. There's just so many things we can do. So many things we can do. Okay. So that is the iron-on method with Mod Podge. Now there are other iron-on methods and we may talk about those later. We definitely talk about them in the Napkin Club. So you're going to learn lots of great tips and techniques, all kinds of things in the Napkin Club. Okay. For working with all kinds of surfaces. We're going to go back in 2024 and I'm going to be very purposeful. We're going to go back as we get started in 2024. We're going to start kind of reviewing again different surfaces. What are the best tips, the best techniques for different surfaces? Is it just like the iron-on method for paper? Well, what are the best tips and techniques for putting napkin art on metal? What are the best tips and techniques I can give for putting it onto fabric, right? For glass, for plastic, for wood, for all kinds of things, old rusty things, if we're repurposing, things like that. So I want you to see how awesome this is. So I've shown you two really basic techniques. This was just using the wet method onto paper. Now this is dry now. So if I want to do anything else to it, I can, or I can cut it to be a card front or a tag, or I could literally just put this, again, I've basically just made myself decorative paper. I can use it in any way that I want. I could put this into a frame. It's beautiful. I mean, look how gorgeous this is, right? So 2 very simple tips, right? Wet method, iron-on method using Mod Podge for napkin arts, to use your napkins in paper crafting of any kind, okay? All right, I wanna show you something else. You ready? I wanna show you something else. I want to show you how pretty it can be to, let's see, let's take this, I'm trying to think what I want to do here. I want to show you how to crackle paper. Okay. I want to show you how to crackle paper. I think I'm going to do it on this one, this larger piece. This is just a piece I had cut for a card. So, oh, you know what? Let's use this green. I forgot I have a green scrap here. Okay, I have this green scrap of paper here. All right, just green cardstock, green paper. I want to show you how we can actually crackle paper, okay? Because here's the other thing. The things that I show you in the Napkin Club that you're going to learn, the things that I show you actually in all of my communities, okay, regardless which creative niche that you're in, is you're going to learn things other than just working with napkins, right? I mean, I'm going to share all kinds of artsy techniques with you because we have all these supplies and we need to be using them. And sometimes I feel like we have supplies that maybe we need to refresh ourselves or maybe use them in a new way, right? So let's use paper in a new way and let's crackle it. I don't think people ever think to crackle paper. If you're in the Napkin Club, you know we love to use crackle medium on canvases. We love to use it on wood pieces. I love crackle. I love crackle medium, but I don't think we always realize or think to use it on paper. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to take. I'm going to take 2 pieces of paper here. I'm going to take one of these and one of these. All right. And the crackle medium that I love to use, it's gonna be the gift away today. We're gonna gift away a variety pack of napkins and a jar of crackle medium. So the crackle medium I use is from Country Chic. It's actually I use their paints too. I love Country Chic paints because they're chalk and mineral based. Now, why do I love them so much? Well, I love them because you can put them on anything. And I mentioned to you that I like to repurpose, right? I love to repurpose. So I like to repurpose old things. I like to give, ordinary things a fresh new life, things like that. And I want to use a paint that I know is going to work on anything I ever paint. Okay. That's why I use it. It has superior adhesion. I can paint on paper. I can paint on paper mache. I can paint on metal. I can paint on wood, canvas, fabric, plastic, glass, all of the things. And I don't have to worry, am I using the right kind of paint? Okay. That's why I use it. That's why I love it. And we carry a beautiful variety of colors. So this is the crackle medium that I'm using. Now you may have another crackle medium that's your favorite, and that's totally fine. I want you to use what's in your stash. I really do. So one of the things I do with my crackle medium is I will stir it. Okay. Now it needs to be stirred. I don't usually shake it. When you shake it, sometimes you get all those micro bubbles. But if it's been sitting on your shelf for a while, a while, okay, you may have to shake it because all the good stuff it'll float to the bottom. A lot of the ingredients or whatever you want to call it will float to the bottom. So it's important that we mix it. And it'll be kind of cloudy, kind of milky, but you'll see as you mix it how it shows up. If you know you're going to be crackling and you haven't crackled in a long time, shake it really well, turn it upside down, and then use it the next day and stir it. Okay, that would be my method to tell you to keep from getting all those little micro bubbles. Okay. All right, so I have kind of mixed this up. I'm just using a plastic knife here. You could use a popsicle stick, whatever you need to. And I'm going to take this lovely crackle medium now, and I'm going to coat it over this green paper. Now, what happens to paper when we put anything wet on it? Yeah, it's going to curl. And that's just what it does. And it's also going to change color a little bit. That's just because that's, again, what paper does. When it gets wet, I want to make sure that I have it all over. And it's going to look really glossy. All right. So I'm going to do it on this white too, just because I want you to see the difference between doing a, the color on top or, a different color on top, basically just to show you. All right. So this one now has medium on it as well. You know what? I think that had Mod Podge underneath it too. That's why it's staying flatter. I just grabbed it out of my little card front pile. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dry it. Okay, I want to dry it. And do you see how it's curling up? It's going to curl. That's just what it's going to do. So like if you were doing shipping tags are a great thing that you can use to crackle, all kinds of things. Just let it curl. Don't worry about it. We'll kind of dry it from the sides, dry it from the top. We're going to dry the crackle medium. Okay. Yes, Leslie, I am. We are getting in the new colors. We've ordered. I'm not sure when they start shipping the new colors, but yeah, I loved them. I'm going to bring some of them in. I have some really pretty new colors coming. You're going to see your cardstock, especially the colored cardstock. I just want to show you. You're going to see it start to change color. Okay. Why is it changing color? Well, it's changing color because it's drying. It's drying. Okay. This one is staying nice and flat because I had Mod Podged it already. I didn't think about that. I just grabbed one of the card prints. So this will be interesting to see if we get the same reaction. Let's turn this one around. Again, don't worry about the curling. You have to, that's one thing you guys are going to have to learn. If you join my creative groups, one of them or two or more, however many you want to, you have to trust the process. You have to trust Miss Tracy. And I promise you, there have been plenty of times when members are watching them and they're doubtful. But it's okay. It always comes through in the end. Yeah, you can crackle on paper. It's so much fun. And like chipboard, you can crackle chipboard. That's a great one because it's thicker. You can crackle on anything, really. So fun. All right, I'm going to kind of put my finger down here. There we go. And as this dries, it's going to start to flatten out. There we go. Here, I'll use my, I should have, I'll use a little skewer here to hold it down in the middle. So we want it to dry. Now, if you were doing these at home and not live like me right now, you could actually just put the medium on it and you could walk away from it. Okay, you could literally just walk away from it and let it just dry on its own. I'm just doing this because I only have you for a short amount of time. I want to be a good steward of your time. So I'm using my heat tool, my heat gun. All right, we're almost there. Now, when you do paper like this, especially because I used kind of a smaller piece of paper, let me tell you this real quick without the dryer on, is you could, like if you know you love to crackle things, you could crackle even a larger piece of paper. And then once it's crackled and done, you could cut it into different sizes if you wanted to. I'm just doing kind of sample pieces just so you can kind of see how this is going to work. So this one's dry. This one is, gosh, it's just so close to being dry. I think it's going to be dry enough. We've got a couple little places where it kind of puddled right here, but I think it's going to be dry enough. Okay. So now then, when you put the crackle medium on, it doesn't matter which direction you go. That doesn't matter. You can go any which direction. But once it's on, when we put the top coat on, after it's dry, right? When we put the top coat on, I'm going to use white on this one. And let's go ahead and we'll just do just the opposite. Let's do, I'm going to do this color. I want them both to be kind of light colors because I'm going to put Mod Podge back on top of them. And let's see, I need one more bigger brush. I didn't plan to use quite this many brushes today. Well, here, let's just clean this one. I'll clean this one with a baby wipe real quick. Yeah. Oh, yes, Dolores, crackling notebook covers. Yes, book covers. There's just so many things. There's so many things, and it's so fun. All right. I've even crackled in my Bible. I have my journaling Bible, not my other Bibles, but my actual journaling Bible that I do creative journaling in. Okay, let's do this one first because I'm kind of curious about this one. All right, so I'm going to use this color called Road Trip. See, it's pretty, kind of a taupey color, tan color. All right. So now when I get ready to put this on, and I'm actually going to make myself smaller for this, and we're going to zoom in a bit. Okay, just want to make sure that you can see well. Okay, I'm going to take this particular color, and when I want you to watch my wrist as I do this. All right, I'm going to start over here on this side. We're going to start at the top and just kind of push your brush down. And the minute my hand naturally lifts up, I'm flipping my brush over to the other side and I'm continuing the stroke. Okay. I'm going to start at the top again. Naturally, my hand just kind of lifts up sometimes and I just flip over to the other side. You can't, what you don't want to do is you don't want to, oh, I got a lot of paint on this one. You don't want to go over your brush stroke. Okay. Does that make sense? All right. And then here. Now you're going to see some ridges in the paint. Okay. I'm going to try to do some good spots and some bad spots just so I can show you the difference. We'll see what happens. Okay. It is already starting to crackle. I'm going to hold it up. Do you see the crackle starting? Okay. It's already starting to crackle. So we're going to leave it alone. Now, these little, what do you want to call it? Like little paint grooves or whatever. If you happen to be using chalk and mineral-based paints, it will self-level, okay? You know what that means? It literally, the longer you let it sit there, it will just self-level. So you don't have to be a perfect painter, perfect crafter of any kind, okay? Which is nice. That is always nice. And we're going to let this one just sit and kind of do its thing. Okay, let me hold it up again so you can see what's happening. It's crackling. Isn't that great? So what happens with crackle medium, I'm going to set this over here to the side. I'll bring this one over here. These are just my little sample pieces. What's happening is that the top paint color is reacting to the crackle medium. Okay, that is what's happening. And that's where the cracks start. And so sometimes you're going to get thinner cracklage is my word for it. You're going to get thinner cracklage. Sometimes you're going to get thicker cracklage. But I still used kind of a lighter color because I am going to put napkin art on top of this. Okay. So I'm going to use white on this one. I like to have a light color underneath my napkin art because if it's a dark color, it affects the color on the napkins. Do y'all know what I mean? It affects the colors on the napkins because, like for instance, let's say I'm gonna, well, let's do this first. Let's focus one thing at a time. Let's get this on. Okay, so again, one direction, turn my brush over. I didn't get quite enough paint. And then just keep going, right? And it doesn't have to be super thick. I think, to me, the thinner the paint, the thinner the crackle. The thicker the paint, the larger the crackle seems to be. That seems to be it most of the time. So I'm just going to quickly get this on here. Now, if you have little areas like this, see, it's already crackling. Do you see even the thinnest coat is already crackling? when you have little areas like this, I'll take like the edge of my brush and just kind of brush through that little edge. Okay. But I try not to too much because I kind of just like seeing what happens. I'm an adventurous, experimental crafter as well. So I think it's going to be so fun. We're going to see what's happening so you can kind of see all the crackles starting. Again, the paint will self-level if we're patient. If we're not patient, which I'm not going to be very patient today. If we're not patient, we can come in and we can actually dry this. Okay. Now, if we dry it with our craft tool, all right, it actually, once the crackle starts, it's going to keep crackling it. The heat actually activates it even more. So I'm going to go ahead and apply some heat to this one. And you can keep it really close, but you need to keep it moving. Okay, now look at this corner. I kind of have been doing it right here in this corner. See how the cracks separated even more? Okay. So if you're patient and you let your paint self-level, it's going to be amazing. But I'm not patient today. So I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to dry this whole thing. If you aren't very patient, you can also, after they're dry, go in and sand those parts down. But we're just demoing today, right? I know, I crackle all the time, but I get so excited every time I do it. But I just want to show you, I put this paint on much thicker. And you can see the result, right? See how the cracks are thicker? Really nice. Now, let's look over here at this one. Again, I'm not going to wait. I'm going to just keep going, but I just want to show you thinner. You get thinner cracklage, right? So let's go ahead and dry this piece too. I'm not going to wait for it to level. I'm just going to keep going because I don't want to keep you on here too long. And we've been on here an hour already. Time flies when you're having fun, right, girls? Yes, it's so pretty on paper. Oh. Okay, I think that's probably good enough. All right, so I just want to show you, even the thinnest areas, you get this really delicate crackle. Do you see? Now, if I had been patient, none of these ridges would be here. These ridges would have just self-leveled out. But it's kind of fun sometimes to have some ridges in there, especially if you're trying to make something look really old or aged. Isn't that awesome? It looks so good. And if you ever have an area that didn't crackle enough for you, you could always go in and just do the process again in that little area if you needed to. But I usually don't. I just let it be what it's going to be. Okay. It's pretty cool. All right. So here's the difference, right? Thicker paint, thicker cracklage, we'll call it. Again, I could have let this self-level out, but I just, I want to be good for our time here. All right, so now what are we going to do? Well, we're going to napkinize these. I love the crackle method. Now, everything might be a little bit curly, right? So if you need to go back in and reshape your paper, you can. If you need to, after you're done, if we need to set something on top of it, you can. But you can see it's going to kind of come back out. This is still a little bit wet right there. All right, let's try this just a little bit more on that one. Actually, we'll do this one while that one's drying. Okay, so now I have this pretty crackled, very kind of vintagey looking, very old looking, very shabby looking piece. Let's go back to the rose. Let's do the rose again. This beautiful rose is in the January bundle that's coming to everyone in the Napkin Club. I think it's so pretty. So let's do the rose. I can turn this into a pretty either a card front or a tag, whatever we want. Okay, and I think it's going to look really pretty with kind of some, I'm trying to think like, where do I want the shabby? I want to make sure all this shabbiness kind of comes through. I love that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our Mod Podge mat. Okay, back to the Mod Podge mat, the yellow label. And we're going to coat over the top. And you could have a bunch of these already pre-crackled and ready to go. And if you pre-crackle them, you can actually put, if you want to do the iron-on method, you can do the iron-on method with crackled paint as well. Okay, meaning that when you put your Mod Podge down, we could let that dry. For today, I'm going to go ahead and move on with this. This is just the top tissue. So I'm going to just kind of position our beautiful rose on here. Take my plastic wrap. Remember the plastic wrap, the deli bakery sheet, or any plastic wrap that you have. And we're going to smooth. And we're going to really burnish this. Do y'all know what burnish means? I'm using the fatty part of my fingers here, right? The fatty part of my fingers. And I'm really going to burnish this. Burnish is just a fancy word for rub hard. I'm really going to rub this hard because I want my napkin tissue to get down into all these little nooks and crannies, right? I want it to get down in all these little nooks and crannies. And let's see what we've got. The napkin tissue is so sheer. Oh my goodness. This is so pretty, you guys. Peel this off my paper here so I can show you. Look at the crackle. You see what happens? All this, the edges, all of that will come off, but I just want you to focus on the crackle. Do you see the crackle? Everything shows through. So because this napkin has a light background, it's almost invisible. All this pretty, and this is really, really thin crackle, guys. And for this thin crackle to show through, just imagine what it's going to, what our next piece is going to look like on the one with the thick crackle. Isn't that gorgeous? And now this looks so pretty and vintage. Now I like to dry it. We're going to dry it before we cut the edges. One thing you need to know, those of you that are brand new, okay, if you're brand new, the napkin tissue is at its most fragile when it's wet. So like we don't sand the edges of something. We don't cut the edges of something unless it's dry, because even just the pull from the scissors sometimes can cause the napkin tissue to tear if it's still wet. Okay, so really important. We want to make sure this is good and dry. I love this. I love this. Let's turn it this way. So if it's for paper crafting, I usually just cut along the edge. And then, like I said, I have a decorative piece of paper now that I can use in any way that I want to. Okay, does that make sense? It's gorgeous. It's so gorgeous. I could frame this if I wanted to, if I had the right size. Okay, I'm trying to show you areas that show up the best. But it's kind of fun. Just, do you see how vintage it looks when it's not, you know, it's crackled in certain areas and not in certain areas. Looks really good. Okay. So I know it's so fun, right? Okay, so let's see this. Let's put it on this pink one. I think I have a larger pink one. So if this was going to be a card, I don't know if this is cut the exact right size, but I could trim it down, right? I could trim it down to be on the front of a card, right? I could nip the corners and turn it into a beautiful tag. I could put this in my Bible. I could journal something on the back of it. I could, you know, there's just so many different things that you could do. Okay. So now let's look at this one. All right. We did this one. This was with the a very delicate crackle, thinner paint. is going to give you more delicate crackle. Ooh, this one is not thin. This one is thick. All right, are we ready? Let's see, what napkin should we use for this one? Let's use this one. Do I have this one cut? I'm going to use this one. So let me cut a square of this one. This was in this month's December's bundle. The January bundle is called Made with Love, if you want to know. And I will be doing a live reveal of the January Napkin Club bundle coming up this week during Create and Connect. So I'm excited about that. Okay, so I'm going to take this piece now, and I'm going to put this over it. We're going to see what this looks like on top of it. So you won't see all the black and white trim, although I could add that later. We're just going to put kind of this part. Okay. All right, let's see how this one's going to look. So again, we're going to come back with our Mod Podge. And keep in mind, I could still do the iron-on technique with this. I would just have to let the Mod Podge dry. And after this one, I'll have we'll do a quick Q&A. And then I want to remind everyone, let me just cover this up a little bit. I want to remind everyone to sign up for the grand prize drawing. And also to get registered because I want to send you that card guide, the sizing guide. And that will come out tonight. We'll get an email every night with all of these things. Okay, so I've laid down my napkin tissue. Now I'm going to start smoothing. I could have cut around this beautiful glass planter with these pretty greens in it, but I didn't. And the reason I didn't is because it's got a white background. So the white background is just going to disappear. Not all napkins have a white background, and so we teach you in the Napkin Club how to deal with that. The different things that you can do. This is looking good. And again, burnishing with that fatty part of my fingers, right? You can do circles, you can go up and down. I just want to make sure that napkin tissue is really burnished, which is a fancy word for rub hard, all down in there. Okay? All right. I'm excited to see this one. And then, of course, you know, I'll seal over the top depending on how I'm going to use it. Oh, I can already tell I'm going to love this. All right. The other thing, by sealing your work on the top, by sealing the napkin art, the other thing that happens, you guys, look how pretty. The other thing that happens is it makes the napkin even more transparent. So that's another benefit to adding a coat over the top. Depending on how you're going to use it, it's going to make the napkin even more transparent. Just want to make sure it's dry enough around the edges. I know I'm doing this kind of fast, but again, I wanted to try to keep these within an hour for you, because if I just go, I'll go all day. So pretty. So you see how the color is going to show through, and it's going to show through even more when I do a top coat. But I just want you to look at the crackle. See how the crackle shows right through? Yes. Now it's not going to show through quite as much here because we have a lot of the green colors going on. But even up here at the top, you're going to see it coming through. It's just beautiful. It's so pretty, right? Isn't that pretty? Let me hold it over here. It just looks so pretty and aged, and oh, I just love it. I'm kind of a texture junkie, so I just really, really love things like this. Isn't it pretty? Becky sees no problem with me going all day. Yeah. I have to go multiple times for the next 4 days, so I need to keep my voice. All right, so let's compare kind of the two. You can see the larger crackle, And you see the smaller crackle. And actually my favorite pieces, you guys, my favorite crackled pieces are the pieces that have both. I like it when there's some small crackle and some big crackle. I love the pieces that have a little bit of both. Okay. I love that. So let's see. Do we have I'm just going to put something kind of here just so that you can see how pretty. Actually, this one would look pretty, I think, with black. Like, look at this. And I didn't cut this very well, but you guys get the gist. Ooh, that looks pretty on black. Yes, I love it. I love it. Oh, if you already got the email for the class, do I need to do anything else? No. If you registered already for Create and Connect, you don't need to do a thing because we'll email you tonight. We'll email you a recap tonight after the 7 o'clock class. And that way you're going to have everything. Again, just want to show you the one with nothing, but this would be pretty with crackle too, right? And then our pretty rose here. Yes, so fun. So here's a good one to look at too. Let's look at this one too. So see how the shabby kind of look here and then the really clean look here. It just depends on what do you want, right? We have that green color of cardstock kind of coming through on this one. So pretty. Gorgeous, gorgeous.